An unnamed man cycling on his bike back home from a diner, having a takeout burger meal, comes across terrifying events, haunted by a ghostly figure and a demonic car trapped in an agonizing, repeating loop. Hi folks, I'm R, and welcome to a story which makes you avoid going for a bike ride at night, at least for some time. And I wanted to tell you folks that I started focusing a lot more on my gaming channel where I played this game on earlier, which you can watch by hitting on the card above. If you folks enjoy watching gameplays, you can follow me there for many more videos to come. Link in the description down below. With that said, this video will have spoilers. Let's get right into it. On his way back home after getting a takeaway burger meal, the protagonist gets on his bike, noticing a signboard mentioning Tunnella, which in Finnish translates to underworld or hell, a strange sign which has an image of a bed representative of resting places. Pedaling more and moving further, the protagonist notices a car passing by, with an old man being the driver. Not long after, he notices a bicycle identical to his, just being abandoned on the road with no one anywhere to be seen. Traveling yet further, the protagonist barely notices another person pedaling on a bicycle ahead of him, which distorts his vision when he finds himself back at the diner he picked up the burger from, being confused to how he ended up there. Dismissing this as a dream, thinking he might have had a nap blurring the lines between reality and dream, he gets back on his way to go home. His experience traveling through the road is almost identical to his dream, making him have a strange, unnerving feeling. The road is as dark as before, and the night is as quiet as it was. Pedaling for some time, starting to feel better and more relaxed, the same exact car and driver pass by, bringing about the same harrowing feeling he had. It even gets worse when he comes across the same bicycle that was left on the road, but this time with a pool of blood beneath it and a trail of fading footprints, which lead to a woman with a torn and dirty dress, walking slowly while laughing menacingly, having bloodied legs. As the protagonist tries to approach the woman and ask if she's okay, she disappears into the darkness, with the protagonist questioning his own sanity. As soon as the protagonist crosses over the train track, he is yet again back to the diner just to start his journey all over again. Starting to feel he's trapped in a time loop, stuck on the road, having to travel in the darkness back to his house, he starts getting a debilitating feeling of impending doom, not fully understanding what's happening to him. Questioning if it's all in his mind or if he is actually experiencing these events in real life. Yet again pedaling to get back home in another desperate attempt, the protagonist sees his hands being full of blood for a split second before getting back to normal. The same driver passes by again, hitting his head on the steering wheel repeatedly to the point of blood trickling down his nose. The events become even more grim when the protagonist notices the bicycle on the road has a large pool of blood next to it now, which he tries to quickly evade and get away from. Reaching the train track, he observes a long train passing, barricading his way. Starting to feel nervous, being motionless and vulnerable to any danger that might be lurking around, he starts to hear familiar laughter coming from his back. When he turns, observing in horror the same woman in a torn white dress with blood smears all over her standing behind, slowly walking towards him while giggling menacingly. Trapped behind the train, not able to move, the woman gets too close for comfort, revealing her horrifying face, looking more like a rotting corpse, who smiles ear to ear to the protagonist before vanishing in thin air. The protagonist, severely shaken and terrified, looks ahead and sees the train having blood inside before clearing the path, letting him pedal as fast as he can. The road ahead is infested with multiple embodiments of the rotting woman in white, with many fallen trees obstructing his way. Managing to outmaneuver both the ghostly lady and the trees, the protagonist has a blackout and finds himself back at the diner just to go over all of this again. Starting to pedal again, the protagonist notices the signboard having a different drawing of a spiral, depicting that the protagonist is stuck in a loop, with Tunnella translating to hell, revealing that he's stuck in the underworld, suffering repeatedly, having to go over a loop. This is confirmed by the death scenes, as when the protagonist dies, a text appears reading "not yet," suggesting that the protagonist must suffer much more and he shouldn't be able to die so quickly. He should suffer much more in the loop of hell. As the protagonist in despair pedals to go back home, he notices that he's still followed by the corpse lady in white when he notices the same car passing by, with the driver being dead this time and having had decomposed severely. Circling further, the bicycle on the road is gone now, with the pool of blood still remaining there. He notices the corpse lady soon pedaling on the missing bike before disappearing when the car with the dead driver appears behind his bike, which forms a demon face on the front of the car, chasing after him. The road then becomes damaged with many collapsed sides, causing the chase sequence become more suspenseful when the protagonist manages to evade the car passing through a thin passway. After a blackout and finding himself back at the diner, about to lose his mind, the protagonist starts pedaling once more, but this time reaching a deep tunnel. Inside, a giant version of the corpse lady appears, chasing after him, while many duplicates of the woman being on bicycle and obstructing his way, making it difficult for him to cycle. Narrowly managing to escape the giant corpse lady, the protagonist enters a claustrophobic tunnel with tentacle-like arms protruding, trying to stop him, while the car with the demonic face chases after him. If the protagonist falls or stops, the car simply runs him over instead of using its demonic mouth to devour him, as if representing something, maybe directly correlating to something the protagonist had done to deserve such punishment. As the protagonist stays focused and centered to avoid the car, it suddenly disappears and reappears from his front, running him over, making him travel to a terrifying version of this world with a blood-red sky. A text appears on the screen reading that it's too late, revealing that the protagonist cannot go home anymore. As he travels further, he reaches a surreal floating bridge when he sees an exit door, which he pedals quickly towards to. That's when the protagonist feels excruciatingly sharp pains coming from the palms of his hands, being lifted into the sky, noticing that his hands are pierced with meat hooks, being suspended in the air, contorting her body in a horrifying manner, getting ready to torture the protagonist even more. Just as she gets too close, a loud sound is heard saying enough when a large demonic entity appears, holding tightly onto the woman, who transforms into a normal-looking human being. She is then quickly consumed by this large demonic being, who informs the protagonist that he does not belong in this world, releasing him from the meat hooks and letting him pass through the exit door. That's when the protagonist wakes up in a car, resembling the car that was chasing after him, trying to run him over, with his burger meal boxed right next to him. Looking outside his window, he notices in horror the bicycle he was riding, being on the road with a large pool of blood, and with no other than the corpse lady in her human form lying next to the bicycle, completely motionless, having had died from the car collision. This unveils the harrowing truth that the protagonist was in fact the person behind the wheels, who had an accident with the female cyclist, killing her at the spot. As the result of this accident, the protagonist blacked out, being tormented for his deeds, being placed in the shoes of the female cyclist to feel the terror she felt when being ran over by the car, losing her life slowly. This lady transforms into a zombified version of herself, tormenting the protagonist in a never-ending loop in the underworld to make him feel what she felt, being chased by a horrifying monstrous car. However, at the end, the demonic entity in charge of the underworld holds tightly onto the corpse lady, the victim of the incident, stopping her from tormenting the protagonist, as it's not his time yet and he doesn't belong there, as he is still alive in the real world. He goes through the exit door back to the real world, but the victim lady strangely gets consumed by the demon, as in fact she didn't deserve to be in hell. But maybe she chose to go to hell and drag the driver in with her to just torment him endlessly. Maybe that's why she suffered the horrible fate of being in the underworld. She decided to be vengeful and torture someone who didn't seem to intentionally run her over and take her life. And maybe she also had to suffer for torturing someone. But either way, she didn't deserve to be in hell forever unless she had done some other horrible things which were not shown in the game. Anyway, that's the end of this video, folks. I truly hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, by any chance, you can stay tuned for more by hitting on the subscribe button and the notification bell. It's been your host Star. Until the next time, have a fantastic day.